All right, good evening. Kim Baker here with the Victim Survivor Conqueror Ministry, coming to you on this Tuesday evening on Facebook Live, uh, YouTube Live, Twitch TV, and Twitter, and also now on Zoom. Okay. Trying to get all my phone and everything set up. Let's see here. There we go. All right. All right. Sorry about that little inconvenience trying to get my iPad and my iPhone set up and ready to go. All right. So last week, I thought we still had a little bit more verbal and emotional abuse to do, but we actually got to the end of that. So tonight we're going to be starting out with victimization. Okay. Living with a victim mentality. Okay. So basically, learning how to live without a victim mentality. Okay. All right. Down at the bottom where it's scrolling there, it says VSC Ministry. That is our website. If you want, you can go there and you can download this material, Victimization, and then be able to follow along with the material. Okay. So if you're on Facebook, if you would, please hit one of the buttons. It does help us to be able to reach more people. Okay. And so without any further ado, let's get into tonight's material. Okay. We're going to start out tonight, very first thing, with a story. Okay. I'm going to read a story, and this is probably one of my favorite things that we do here at the VSC Ministry on victimization in this story, because it's such a powerful story. Okay. Where are we at? Okay. All right. What we're doing, we're talking about baby elephants at in the circus world. Okay. So a story is told of baby elephants in the circus world coming under the chain of control. Okay. So immediately after birth, the baby elephant's leg is chained to a stake. Okay. Now I've been doing some reading this evening, and actually what they do is this stake is actually buried in concrete. So the elephant cannot pull the stake up. It's not just necessarily a stake drove in the ground. Okay. So it is buried in concrete. And so they chained the baby elephant's leg to this stake. Okay. And no matter how hard that this elephant tries to get loose, he cannot tug free. Okay? And so what happens is the young elephant at some point becomes trained in his mind that he can't get loose. When I got this chain around my foot, I'm there. I can't get loose. I can't go nowhere. And so forth. Okay. So he accepts the fact that no matter what, he does not have the power to become free. Okay? So we know that over time that an elephant will start maturing in his body, won't he? Yeah, he becomes an adult. Okay? But what happens is that every time that they bring this elephant, no matter how old or how mature that they become, every time they take him out and put him at the stake and chain him up, he has sorry, and I just lost track there. But anyway, he doesn't have the power. In his mind, he thinks he does not have the power to free himself. But we know that as an adult elephant, he does have the power. He could free himself. But because he's been trained from very early on in his life, he is mentally and emotionally powerless. So what happens? Doesn't even try. Okay? It's not like he goes out there and this week, he tries to get loose and then he don't try anymore. Then next week he tries again. No. He doesn't even try. Okay? So let's look at adults who were abused as children. Okay? Adults who were abused as children often live with this same sense of false reality. Okay? We have this mindset that that we are meant to live with this past abuse in our lives. Okay? And we have this false sense of reality. And what happens is then that we perceive ourselves as being powerless. Okay? And the sad thing is that a lot of times it is later, way later in life, before we realize that God can pull up those chains of past abuse and set us free. And absolutely he can. Okay? It is for freedom that Christ has set us free. Stand firm then, and do not let yourself be burdened again by a yoke of slavery. Galatians chapter 5, verse 1. Okay? That's exactly what this elephant was. This elephant was yoked by this chain. Okay? The chain was the burden. Okay? And yeah, they were burdened by slavery. It was a form of slavery, wasn't it? Yeah. But so are we. When we don't recognize that with God, with Christ Jesus, we can be let go of that burden. That burden can be released, and that yoke can be broken, and that bond can be broken. Okay? And this in reality is exactly what this ministry is about. It's about trying to help people to break the bond, to break the burdens, to unyoke themselves from their past hurts, their past abuses. Okay? All right. So, to understand what a victim mentality is, thank you for the thumbs up for Facebook there. Appreciate that. We need to know first, what is a victim? Okay? So, what is a victim? A victim is a person who is adversely treated. Okay? That's treated wrong, that's treated bad. Okay? So, victim is a person who's been adversely mistreated. So, what is the victim mentality? Okay? The victim mentality is a mindset in which a person who was once victimized continues in these thought patterns of feeling powerless. Okay? Even after the victimization has ended. Okay? When you go through life, when you've been abused, and you go through life and you just like and you accept the fact that, okay, things are never going to get better. I'm always going to have these feelings. I'm going to have these feelings of guilt. I'm always going to harbor unforgiveness. I'm always going to have unresolved anger in my life. I'm going to have broken relationships. And that's just the way it is. It's because we're just like the elephant. We've been trained. All these years, we've told ourselves, I don't have the power to do this. I don't have this. I don't have the capability of doing that. Okay? When we do that, and when we tell ourselves over and over and over, we are training ourselves. Okay? And it is time that we start telling ourselves that that is the wrong message. That yes, we can find healing. Yes, we can find peace. It's there. It's out there. Okay? What do I want? Do I want that peace? Do I want to quit living with a powerless mindset or not? Okay? All right. So we finished up. We were talking about boundaries last week with the verbal and emotional abuse. Okay. So, and this is something that you will see if you watch our videos and tune in live. You're going to see where things that we talk about in verbal and emotional abuse, you're going to see it in victimization. Okay, what we talk about in victimization, then it's going to be in the next one, and so forth and so on. Okay, so this is a test for broken boundaries. Okay, so what I want you to do is, if you happen to have this material, and you can get the material by going to vscministry.com, our website, and you can download it if you want to. Okay? All right. So think about these. Okay? And just act like you're putting a check mark there. Okay? Really think about, does this pertain to you? Okay? Does this speak to you? Okay? Do you find it difficult to make decisions and stick with them, especially when you are opposed by someone, when someone opposes you over a decision that that you have made, or you're going to make, or you're in process of making? Okay. So does that apply to you or not? Do you feel you must seek opinions from others before making a decision? Okay. Do you feel hesitant to give your opinion even when you are asked? Are you hesitant? Okay. Do you fear expressing what you really feel? Do you fear expressing what you really fear or feel? Do you lack confidence in your convictions? Do you lack confidence in your convictions? Do you avoid certain people because you fear embarrassment? Do you avoid certain people because you fear embarrassment? Do you find it difficult to maintain eye contact with another person? Do you find it difficult to ask others for help? Do you find it difficult to ask others for help? Do you do favors for others even when you know that you shouldn't? Do you avoid asking people to return overdue items that they have borrowed? Do you have difficulty receiving sincere compliments? Do you have difficulty receiving sincere compliments? Do you need a great deal of assurance from others? Do you need a great deal of assurance from others? Do you do more than your fair share of work on a project? Do you have difficulty pointing out situations that are unfair? Do you ever say yes when you really want to say no? Okay. So, if one or more of these refer to you, or if you answered yes to any of these, then you may have difficulty setting personal boundaries. Okay. And here's the thing that we have to understand about boundaries, and especially in personal boundaries, is for the most part, there's nothing wrong with having good personal boundaries. Okay. Because we have boundaries in our life everywhere. All aspects of our life, there's boundaries. Okay. Did you go to work today? You know, for the most part, most of us probably would answer yes, I went to work today. Okay. You have boundaries at work. Okay. They don't want you on Facebook all the time. Don't want you on your phone all the time. What you are expected to put in X number of hours a day. Okay, going to work. When you were going to work this morning, you had boundaries. Okay. There's a car in the lane right beside of you. Well, there's a boundary that you can't move over into the other lane because there's already somebody there. That's a boundary. Okay. Speed limits. We have to obey, we obey speed limits. Okay. If you do not obey the speed limit, if you do not obey that boundary, you could receive a ticket, right? Yeah. What about in marriage? Are there boundaries in marriage? Absolutely, there are boundaries in marriage. Okay? What? We should not be involved with someone of the opposite sex. Should we? But yeah, there's boundaries in marriages. You know, there's nothing wrong with talking to somebody of the opposite sex, but do not allow that talk to get out of hand. Okay, there's a boundary there. that you should not cross. Okay? So there's boundaries everywhere in life. Okay? So if there's boundaries everywhere, then why shouldn't we have boundaries, personal boundaries ourselves? Okay? All right, moving on. According to Proverbs chapter 29, verse 25, what will fear of man prove to be? What will fear of man prove to be? Fear of man will prove to be a snare, but whoever trusts in the Lord is kept safe. Proverbs chapter 29, verse 25. Okay? You want to be kept safe? Then trust in the Lord. Okay? Another test. Okay? I bet you thought you wouldn't be taking tests anymore in your life, did you? Well, here we are. Now we're going to do a test for low self-worth. Okay? Do I have a low self-worth of myself? Victims of abuse, a lot of times, have a low sense of self-worth. Place a check mark beside the ones that apply to you. Okay? Does it apply to you? Accepting abuse. Okay? Now, this is not meaning that we accept, we're willing to be sexually abused. Okay? But what it's saying is like verbal abuse. Okay? So somebody starts verbally abusing us, what are we going to do? Okay? Are we going to have a boundary? Are we going to have a personal boundary up where we will not allow that to happen? Or are we just going to walk away? Okay? So what we do need to understand is this. Not answering or not having an answer is having an answer. Okay? So if you just walk away from it, then yes, in a roundabout way, you are accepting it. You're allowing it to happen. Okay? So don't get caught up on that one real big. Okay? Do you accept blame? Okay? A lot of us that have been abused, we do. We accept, we allow ourselves to accept blame for what happened. Well, if I would have, if I could have done this, or if I would have done that, then maybe that wouldn't have happened. Okay? No. Okay? We allow condemnation. We allow to be put down. We accept injustices. We're critical. Okay? Being critical of ourselves or others. Are you desperate for approval? Okay? People that are desperate for approval are normally unable to set boundaries. They might be able to, but they will not do it. They will refuse to set boundaries. Okay? Because if you set boundaries, then you are probably not going to get a lot of approval from people. Okay? Are you unable to accept compliments? Are you a people pleaser? Are you defensive all the time? Okay? Are you constantly defensive? Okay? If these relate to you, then you could have a low self of worth. Okay? All right. Next, we're going to look at some things that we might be dependent upon. Okay? Some things that you may be dependent. Are you dependent upon any of the following? Victims of abuse often form various forms of addictions, dependencies, such as dependency So again, place check mark beside the ones that apply to you. That don't make a lot of sense, that first statement up there, so I apologize for that. But so what about food? Are you dependent on food? Are you dependent on food? What about having a social status? Okay. I want people to think this about me, or I want people to think that about me. Okay. A social status. What about drugs and alcohol? Okay. Are you dependent on people? Okay. That would be what? Codependency. Yeah. Codependency. Are you dependent upon financial security? Okay. Now, there's nothing wrong with being, trying to be financial secure. But it is when we take things a little too far. Okay. What about your personal abilities? Are you dependent on your personal abilities? Are you dependent upon religion? Okay. Now, we're not talking about being dependent upon God or Jesus Christ. Okay. We're talking about being dependent. Well, I go to First Baptist Church, or I go to the Methodist Church, I'm this or that, on religion. We're not talking about having a relationship with God Almighty or with Jesus Christ, okay? But being dependent upon religion. What about being dependent upon material possessions? Are you dependent upon material possessions? What about your physical appearance? Right? Are you dependent upon your physical appearance? And again, nothing wrong with looking nice, dressing nice, hair looking good. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay. But when we become dependent, okay, when it becomes more than just wanting to look good, okay, are you dependent upon your professional success? Okay. So now let's look at some fears. Okay. By the way, we do offer also a study and discussion of fear. It'll be coming up a few months down the road. Okay. So fear is a common side effect experienced by victims of abuse. Okay. Sometimes they may exhibit fear, may have a fear of abandonment. Do you have a fear of abandonment? Are you afraid to be abandoned? What about a fear of authority figure? Okay. This was a big one of mine growing up. I was fearful of authority figures. Okay. What about of rejection? Do you have a fear of rejection? What about a fear of God? Okay. And we're not talking about the reverence, having a reverence or an awe for God and the things of God, but having a real fear-based mentality about God. Okay. You got fear of failure. Are you afraid to fail? Do you have a fear of unexpected changes? Okay. In other words, you like things to stay steady and no changes. What about fear of affection? Fear of affection. Fear of unfamiliar places. Fear of intimacy. Fear of unpredictable situations. God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind. 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7. Okay? All right. Now let's look at excessiveness. Are you excessive? Are you excessive about any of the following? In safety. About being in control. Are you excessive about being in control? What about your appearance? In work? In seriousness? You got to be serious 100% all the time, every time. Are you excessive in rules? What about in organization? In details? Are you excessive in your relationships? Are you excessive in your thoughts? Offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your spiritual act of worship. Do not conform any longer to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. That is Romans chapter 12, verses 1 through 2. Okay? All right, now we're going to look at compulsiveness. Okay? Are you compulsive in any of these areas? Are you compulsive about perfectionism? Throat's getting dry. What about personal rituals? Are you compulsive about personal rituals? What about dieting? About irresponsibility? About cleanliness? Compulsive about exercise? What about repeated victimization? About your daily routines? About orderliness? Locking doors? Those who feel controlled by compulsive behaviors need to know that God will meet your needs according to his glorious riches in Christ Jesus. That is Philippians chapter 4, verse 19. Okay? So, now, let's look at some physical side effects of victimization. Some physical side effects. These are some physical side effects that you can actually have when you are living with a victim mentality. Okay? Sexual difficulties. Frigidity, impotence. Promiscuity. Sleeping disruptions. Having nightmares. Insomnia. Eating disorders. Could be bulimia. Maybe anorexia. memory disturbances, memory blocks, flashbacks, okay? There are spiritual walls that can make us a prisoner of the past. Okay? Can you name at least 3 false beliefs, 3 childish thinkings, and 3 truths? Okay? So we're going to look at 3 false beliefs. Okay? False belief is blaming God. Our childish thinking is, this is God's fault. He is the rock. His works are perfect and all of his ways are just. A faithful God who does no wrong, upright and just is he. Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 4. Okay? Next false belief is anger towards God. The childish thinking. How could God let this happen to me? The Lord is righteous in all of his ways and loving towards all he has made. Psalms chapter 147, verse 17. False belief. Distrust of God. Distrusting God. Childish thinking. I can't depend on God. Trust in the Lord with your heart and lean not on your own understanding. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5. Okay. All right. We're going to stop there for tonight. And let me see here. I want to. Oh. All right. I'm getting there. Hold on to me. Oh. Oh. Need it over here. Here we go. I'll get it right in a minute. All right. Couple announcements before we get out of here tonight. Okay. I'll get to this in just a minute on your screen, but down at the bottom, you see where it's scrolling, where it says VSCministry.com. That is our website. You can go there. You can download this material or any of the other classes, 8 classes that we do, and then you would have the material to follow along with. Okay. All right. Coming up this Sunday, if you are close to the Midland or Odessa area, okay. Excuse me. This coming up this Sunday, October the 16th, we will be having our 8th annual pumpkin smash. Okay. So what is a pumpkin smash? Okay. If you've not been to one or don't know what we're talking about, okay, We will have a bunch of pumpkins here at 3319 North Golder Avenue in Odessa. That'll be at Amet Hatara local church here. Okay. So what you do, you come, you pick out a pumpkin, and I'll have paint pens there, and you can write on your pumpkin something or things that you would want to smash out of your life. Okay. So you write on there, and then we will have like mallets and maybe and baseball bats, and then you can go and smash your pumpkin. Okay, it's just it's a way to try to get some anger, maybe some built up anger out, some frustration, and just let go. Okay, and so all it is just a way to turn things over to God and say, God, I want this out of my life. I don't want it no more. And I'm giving it to you. I'm going to beat the snot out of it. Okay. So, but along with this, we will be the VSC Ministry, where we'll also have pumpkin bowling. Okay. Not sure how it's going to work, but we're going to give it a try. Okay. But there will be other activities there available. There'll be a water slide. There's a bounce house for the smaller kids. There's rock climbing. There's going to be bull riding. A thing, it's called Jacob's Ladder. And bungee jumping, and there'll be bungee jumping. Okay. Now, all activities, pumpkin smash, the bull riding, and all that is absolutely free. Okay. All the other activities, the bull riding and stuff like that, is sponsored by Amet Hatara. Okay. But this is just it's out in the open. We got a great big blue and white tent set up. So adults, if you're not into all the activities, you can go sit underneath a tent, get out of the sunshine, and just let your kids have a good time. Okay. There'll be lots of people there, but it will be from 12 to about 4 o'clock this Sunday, the 16th of October. Okay. Before I close, just want to, we are a nonprofit ministry, and I do depend upon donations. I've got some great people that donate regularly to us, and we are so thankful for that. But if you can help out, because this pumpkin smash does cost quite a bit of money to put on. And we have never charged anybody at all to participate or anything like that. Okay. But if you could help out with any amount, you can go to vscministry.com, our web page, and we do have a secure PayPal button there that you can donate to. And if you want it to go strictly to the pumpkin smash, you can put a note on there, pumpkin, and that's what your donation would go for, strictly for the pumpkin smash. Okay. But if you could help us out, we would really appreciate it. very much this time of year. We do get very low on funds. But so next week we will pick back up right here where we left off. And this study here we will probably finish up next week with it. Okay. And if we finish up next week, then the following week we will start guilt. Okay. So go to the website, download Victimization, and if you want to, go ahead and download Guilt, where you'll have it printed off, and you can follow along. Okay? Have a great rest of your week, and God bless, and we will see you next week.